Welcome all. My name is Leo Taylor, and I'm a project officer helping on Interfaith Week this year with the interns helping this year. As a brief introduction for those unaware of Interfaith Week, it's an annual initiative held in November that aims to strengthen interfaith relations across the UK. It's a special week focusing on deepening understanding, building relationships, and highlighting the positive impact of faith and belief communities across the country. As part of Interfaith Week this year, for the first time, me and other Interfaith Week staff will be hosting a podcast series. The Interfaith Week 2025 podcast celebrates interfaith voices around the UK and explores the theme for 2025, which is Community, Together We Serve. Each episode will feature a guest discussing the role of interfaith dialogue, service, and community building across the country. So I'm very excited today because for today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Monawar Hussain. He's a Muslim tutor and imam at Eton College and founder of the Oxford Foundation. He is Deputy Lieutenant for Oxfordshire and formerly High Sheriff of Oxfordshire. And in 2017, Monawar was made an MBE for his services to interfaith relations and the community. So Monawar, it's so lovely to have you with us today. Could you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and the organizations and networks you're part of?
Yeah, no, great to be with you, Leo, and thank you very much for having me. So I'm a Muslim tutor at Eton College, and that really means that I look after the pastoral and the kind of educational needs of primarily Muslim Etonians. But beyond that, we also reach out to the wider Eton community, which is of many different faiths. And just for the audience, just so that they know, in addition to myself, there is also the Jewish tutor, there's a Buddhist tutor, there's a Sikh tutor, there's a Hindu tutor, and there was also a Hindu tutor. So there's a group of us who work together to serve the faith communities at Eton College. And beyond that, the Oxford Foundation really was pretty much set up for the kinds of things that you've just mentioned. I really wanted to set up a foundation really in honor of my mother, who passed away at a quite young age. And then it really affected me because I had a business, I'm that generation of making loads of money, but sadly my mum passed away, and then I really wanted to try and can I put the same amount of passion and energy and so on into building something that will give something back to society and our communities. And the Oxford Foundation was born, which is about really bringing people together. I love bringing people together of different faiths, different cultures, and no faith. And so beyond that, I'm also an associate director for Leadership Management International, which is about developing future leaders. So our sort of motto is changing the world one leader at a time. And I'm also a deputy lieutenant, which is a great honor to be able to serve as a deputy to the Lord Lieutenant for the County of Oxfordshire, which is apolitical. And you're really there to support all the communities and all the good that goes on in the county.
That's so good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And it's absolutely wonderful to have you with us. So my first proper question is, what does interfaith mean to you? And why do you think it's important to understand faiths and beliefs?
Yeah, well, interfaith, I think, is an essential element of any flourishing, cohesive society, because interfaith is about bringing or creating spaces where people of different faiths can actually meet each other, which is really important to have conversations, to learn about each other's faiths and cultures and lives. And it's absolutely essential if we're going to build a really decent, thriving society where people can be who they are. You know, whether you have faith or no faith, it's about respecting human dignity and human beings and allowing them the space to be what they are. So interfaith is an essential component of a flourishing, thriving, democratic society that builds relationships, and it also ensures that those voices of division and hatred and so there's a are combated because we don't want any division in our communities and in our society.
Yeah, I think that's some really important and positive points. Just following on from that, can you think of a positive example of kind of interfaith that you've had during your time in all your various roles?
Yeah, I mean, I've got loads of examples, but the one that really comes to mind right now is the very difficult last 2 years that we've had, post the October uh, uh, attacks in Israel and the ongoing conflict in Gaza and so on, and the human suffering. Really, from a very early stage in October 2023, what we decided, because we have such wonderful relationships in the county between all our different religious leaders, we set up the Oxfordshire Civic Community and Faith Leaders Group, which was to actually bring together not just faith leaders, but civic leaders, the police, the members of parliament, everybody together. Why? Because we want to minimize the impact of what's going on abroad. We don't want to import conflicts from abroad here. We want to continue to live in a society in which, as I said earlier, where communities can be who they are. So one of the things we wanted to do is continue to develop understanding between our faith traditions, continue then also to create a third space, a space in which it's not us and them, it's all of us together and standing for peace. So we had a number of major peace vigils in Oxfordshire, 500 plus people coming, some silence, some prayer, some candle lighting. And from that, now, we have now a Thames Valley Leaders Group, which is kind of the same model of faith leaders, civic leaders, all the prominent people in the region coming together to, again, how do we create understanding, have a space which is confidential, everyone can talk to each other frankly, honestly, but all in the same space, in the same community, and we all work together to kind of continue to build understanding and relationships between our leaders and our communities. And now we have faith groups now in Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, and there's loads of good that's going on. So I think for me, over the last 2 years, some communities have found it very difficult. But in Oxfordshire, because we've had those relationships built over many years, there's been trust there. And we've been able to kind of come together at difficult times, talk about it. I first had a small group with my friend in Cambridge, Ed Kessler. We brought together 5 Jews, 5 Muslims, just to talk about how they're feeling. So that to me has been a really wonderful good that we've been able to do at a very difficult time the last couple of years.
Well, that's so positive to hear. I actually also work at the Wolf Institute as my other time job, so
Oh, well, there you are. So you
I'm
know Ed.
familiar with it. Yeah, I do. But in Cambridge, I also run this kind of small local interfaith group, and it was really positive the other day to see in the news that uh, I mean positive because of the response that the local mosque kind of reached out to the Beth Shalom synagogue and was giving it solidarity after the terror attack a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
on Yom Kippur.
Well,
So it was
can I just, yeah, Leo, sorry to interrupt you, but when we had an attack on our mosque here in Central Oxford
mm,
Mosque, the president of the Oxford Jewish congregation came to the mosque and met people there. It was absolutely amazing. I'm so pleased that that was done in Manchester. But there's so many good people in our country, so much good that goes on, it's kind of forgotten. But it just reminded me that, and again, those relationships are there that enable people to do that. It means so much for communities at a vulnerable time, at a fragile time, at a time when they feel um, almost, literally quite under threat, you know,
mm.
for others to reach out and say, we're here with you together to share your pain, but also to stand with you.
Yeah, I think that's a very positive message. Um,
Thank you.
but yes, my next question is about this week's theme, which is community. Together we serve. And I wondered if you could speak on what role that social action plays in bringing different faith communities and belief backgrounds together.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes on throughout the country in terms of food banks. There are voluntary groups that exist to serve the vulnerable in our communities and in our society. And it kind of reminds me of my year as High Sheriff of Oxfordshire, where, I really wanted to celebrate all these volunteering groups and volunteers who did amazing things, like going and getting groceries for their neighbors, driving the elderly or the vulnerable to their hospital appointments or to their GP or for their vaccinations. I also celebrated climate heroes, people, individuals who just volunteer their time for the love and passion to make a difference to the environment, the climate. Um, and so, if we quantify that, it would cost, I think, billions of pounds to pay those people, but they contribute all of that to the betterment of our communities and our society. So volunteering action is, is absolutely essential. And it reminds me also this wonderful, inspirational hadith tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which says that the best of you is the one who serves others. That there's something beautiful and affirming about our common humanity when we actually put the other person first and serve them, and to when people are down in a difficult situation, we have a Oxford Community Action Group locally, which every week provides groceries. They don't ask people questions; they just bag the groceries up. These are vegetables and fruit and so on, and people just come in and take, uh, just honoring their dignity because of cost of living and so on. People are in very difficult circumstance. So there's a lot of good that's going on, and it's part of the fabric of our country. We live in an amazing country that often, when you watch the news, people forget. It all seems doom and gloom. There's a lot that good that goes on, and that sort of social activism is part of that.
I think you're so right that so much, particularly at the grassroots level, there's so much positive kind of the service almost that's
Yeah,
so essential to so many different faith traditions. Pretty much all of them, I would imagine. But yeah, it's not really recognized because you have the national facing stories. But
yeah, and
yes,
faith communities, play a major role in charitable giving. I mean, just during Ramadan, the month of fasting, just in 1 month, Muslims donate over £100 million
mm,
uh, in charitable causes just in the UK. I think in the Muslim community in America, it's well over $1 billion that they gave just in 1 month. And then you have the Church of England, for example, or Jewish communities who have their own organizations that are serving their local communities. So you can't quantify the good that faith communities do, but often we're kind of not in the news for the good things. It's always negative stuff. And there needs to be a kind of a news corporation for the good, that just celebrates the good that goes on in our communities, I think.
yeah. But yeah, as you say, there's so many zakat in Islam and seva and so many of this kind of, as I say, selfless service
Yeah.
that just gets unrecognized, really.
Mm.
So it's really important in this week that we highlight that, I think, because there's going to be lots of
Yeah.
activities which are all focused on social action, which is
Leo,
exciting.
let me just share something else with you. Now, the
Yeah,
Lord
of course.
Lieutenant who represents His Majesty the King, there are Lord Lieutenants in our counties throughout the country who represent other representatives of His Majesty the King. They're all unpaid. Now, when I was appointed High Sheriff, it's for a year. And of course, my family think, wow, the Queen has just appointed him High Sheriff. there must be some money in this, right? I have to give them this disappointing news that as High Sheriff, we serve the Crown. It's a great honor, but we actually spend our own money doing all sorts of things throughout the year. So it's not something that you know you're financially rewarded for. But my point is, that's what I love about our country, that there are certain positions in which you serve, and there is no self-interest in terms of monetary reward and so on. Um, and I think in that sense, it attracts the right people who actually want to serve the community. And the idea of public service is something we should celebrate because, again, you know, we have high sheriffs throughout the country who are serving their communities. I think I had just over 300 engagements in my year. And on top of actually doing my work that earned me some income to kind of feed my family. So there's that sense of public service in the country. And I think we need to continue to kind of amplify that and celebrate that and attract more people to that kind of exactly what you said there, selfless service.
Hmm. I think that's a very important message, kind of to share, I think. Um, but yes, moving on, the Bursting the Bubble report, if you read that about Interfaith Week, showed that only a small percentage of people kind of interested in interfaith. One element of that is also engaging more schools and local groups together. I wondered, what is your experience of this, and how do you think we can bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think interfaith work is undervalued. Um, right now, we've just launched a schools program with one of our local schools here, um, which is to take faith leaders into the school who can share something about what inspires them about their faith, and then open up for dialogue. We then have a smaller group of young people who we provide leadership training or development to. So give them skills of leadership so that they can develop programs around interfaith, around community engagement in their schools, but also beyond the school to bring in the local communities into the schools, which I think is a very exciting program. So there are, you know, kind of innovative ways of kind of attracting and bringing people to into partnerships that actually is a win-win for the young people because they learn so much more about other people's faiths and so on. Because in the world that we live in, it's diverse. You know, you're going to come across people of different faiths, of no faith, of different cultures, and so on. And if you know about those faiths, those cultures, or those kind of non-faith perspectives, I think you're in a better position to be able to work with others for the common good, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's as neighbors, whether it's in your local community. But I think partnership and collaboration is really essential. And in terms of interfaith, I think, as I say, it's undervalued. And I would say if anyone listening to this isn't involved in interfaith, please do reach out to your local communities where there are interfaith groups, or go to your local mosque or synagogue, or reach out to those communities because you will be richer for it. You will learn more. You will have an occasion where, recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was at a sukkah. A rabbi friend of mine invited me to that. It was lovely, just the Jewish community coming together, other faith communities being there. And we just learned so much about the Jewish tradition of Sukkah and how, everyone comes together and it's a community moment. So you kind of learn and you become richer, and it's a source of knowledge that's essential for us to actually be whole human beings.
Yeah. I mean, it's very positive to hear about the value you see in interfaith activity. And kind of linked to that, I was just wondering, how do we get more people involved in interfaith? We can obviously see the value in it, but how do we
Mhm.
not necessarily convince, but get people to involve themselves in it, even if they're not religious as well?
Yeah, I think the question is what kind of community or society do we want to be part of? Do we want to develop and shape and and for me, I think the interfaith component is an essential component because it's about developing understanding. It's about developing mutual respect. It's about creating an understanding of another culture, of faith, of practice, and so on. And by doing that, we actually enrich ourselves. And so that process of engagement, I think, is really important. So I'd give you one other example. Um, about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, I founded what's called One World Festival at the Ashmolean Museum in the University of Oxford. Really simple idea, which was to invite our diverse communities and say, look, come and share something of your culture, of your faith. We don't, we take a theme, but you decide what you want to share. And this year in February, we had over 12,500 people come and experience that. So I would say to those people not involved in the faith, it's not just faith. There is a culture behind this. There is music and there is dance and there is singing and there's so much joy that you will be able to partake in. So somebody said, oh, this is all about faith, the festival. And I said, no, there's also a cultural element too. But through that process, you enrich yourself and you will find something new and something that you will find fulfilling. And it might also help you to strengthen your own perspective, whether it's your own particular faith or no faith. But I think to experience and understand human religious experience, I think deepens us as human beings as well.
Yeah, I mean, your point about the ways in which religion and culture are kind of very much intertwined, but also
Yeah.
separate, and it's quite difficult to for people to kind of realize those differences without actually engaging with people of different faith and cultures. I think that's like a very important point. And that kind of just feeds into my last question as we're coming to the end of the podcast now. And it's just if you could share one message with our listeners about Interfaith Week, what would it be?
Well, for me, I think the driving force in all my work has been love. You know, um, the love of God actually means the love of His creation, the love of our fellow human beings, irrespective of whether they have faith or no faith. So, how can we make the lives of our fellow human beings better? How can we serve them best? How can we actually contribute, make our communities better places? And I come back to my point I made earlier, which is that I want our communities and our society to be a place in which everyone, whoever they are, whatever view they take in terms of faith or culture or no faith and so on, feel that they can be who they are and are able to feel safe, are able to flourish and make their contribution to an amazing country in which we live.
Thank you. That's a great way to end it because really
Okay.
emphasizing the tangible benefits of interfaith activity, I think. So that's unfortunately all we have time for.
Thank
So
you.
thank you, Monwa, for joining us today. Uh,
It's been a pleasure,
I
Leo.
yes, it's been wonderful having you.
Yeah,
And
thank
I
you.
just wanted to invite our listeners as well to thank you so much for listening to this and for tuning into this episode. And that there's still time to get involved in Interfaith Week. To find out what's happening in your local area, you can head to the Interfaith Week website or check out our social media channels. You can just Google them to find them. If you want to get in touch with me or any of the Interfaith Week team, our details are also in the description below. Um, by below, I'm going to send in some links as well that you can look at. But thank you again to Monwa for joining us and to everyone tuning in. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to be part of Interfaith Week 2025. It's very exciting as there'll be more episodes released this week with lots more exciting guests. However, until next time, goodbye and thank you for joining us.